So hello, this is Debbie Georgatos, and I'm having the great fun and privilege of interviewing one of our great Republican candidates. Today, we're talking with Luisa del Rosal. She is a Texan running for a Texas State House district right around here. She's running for House District 114, and I'm so pleased to have this time to talk with her and introduce her to the Park Cities Republican women. So, hello, Luisa.
Hi, Debbie. Thank you so much for the opportunity. It's a real privilege.
So glad you're available to do this, and so glad to introduce you to our PCRW members. Well, before we got on the call, we were talking about your amazing resume, and so I just love to start having you tell about, your background before you got to the point that you're now running for state rep.
Absolutely. Thank you, Debbie. And it's a real privilege sharing my story. I sometimes tell people it's not really that unique because it's this shared journey that a lot of us as Texans have, right? This opportunity and freedom that comes from living in the most exceptional state in the greatest country on earth. And so I am first generation American. I came here to study at SMU, the best university in the United States. I know those are fighting words. And today and I've had a host of wonderful opportunities, again, thanks to my education. But today I actually run two research centers at SMU. I came home to my alma mater. I run one of them is named after the first Republican elected after Reconstruction, Senator John Tower. And it is a center broadly on public policy, international affairs. And the other one is one that I actually founded that is very much about me and my life story. As I said, I'm a first generation American. I'm originally from Mexico. And the center is the Texas Mexico Center. And each of these centers looks at, action oriented policy research on the dynamic relationships the United States has with its allies, abroad, and in the Texas Mexico Center specifically about the very dynamic relationship between Texas and Mexico. And I love it. I have one of the best jobs in the world.
That's a great way to feel about your jobs. Actually, the best jobs in the world, and the best university ever in the best state. Your life's pretty good.
But only in Texas. I mean, I always talk to people that only in Texas do you have limitless opportunities. And I tell people that I know because I live the alternative. And you and I have talked about this before about me being a Republican and how I tell people I'm an immigrant. I lived what big government does, and it gives you limits. And when you come here, you realize that it's only about realizing your potential. And that's why I'm passionate about empowering people with freedom and opportunity.
Love that, empowering people with freedom and opportunity. So we have in Texas, it's an amazing time to be living in Texas. We are going into the next legislative session, maybe with a little more concern about cash flow, a little fewer tax dollars flowing in. So what do you think the kinds of things Texas legislature can do in this coming session to deal with what is clearly going to be a reduction in tax revenue? How do we go about handling that?
Absolutely. I mean, two of the most important issues that I think are coming up in the next legislative session, and if I get the privilege of serving House District 114 and Texans, I always like to tell people the numbers mean nothing for folks. I want to serve the people of Lake Highlands and Preston Hollow and most of northern Dallas and Midway Hollow. I always talk about neighborhoods because we all are so attached to our neighborhoods. And so two of the most important things that will come up are the budget. Texas by law has to pass a balanced budget. This is why we're honestly in a much better opportunity than some blue states that make these unfulfillable promises to their communities and then don't have the revenue to actually get it done. But the budget will be a very important thing in the next legislative session. But we cannot forget that even in the most uncertain of times, politics does continue, and redistricting is going to be a key thing. And this is why I'm running, because I want to keep Texas red. I want Republican principles to continue to lead us to unmatched prosperity, even in the hardest of times. And the Texas House is at play. I know Congress is sexier, and people focus on Congress, but nobody's closer to the people than its local governments and state governments. So those are two of the biggest issues. And things I want to look and see, Debbie, I want to make sure we're continuing to see where do we cut waste and spending? Where are we doing things that maybe this is right now not the time and we need to tighten our belt?
It's interesting you mentioned, and we have talked several times in the past, and one thing about running for state rep, there are so many people who say, "Oh, I'm really strong. I'm a federalist. I support, the concept of federalism," which means pushing back down most issues to be resolved at the state level, not having federal government in control of more and more issues. And yet, what people focus on politically often is Congress, but it's state legislatures that really are tied to the people and really do the job of, in Texas and other conservative states, keeping government limited, keeping government reined in. So it's
Yeah.
it's a yeah, stellar point. So as you wander, I know you right now you can't do a lot of door knocking and campaigning because we're in the middle of this coronavirus mess. But are you able to do some campaigning even during this time when we're shut down? What are you doing to keep your campaign rolling?
Absolutely. So I've always talked about this really being about me wanting to run to give back to the community that's given me so much. So I want to serve. So what we thought during this uncertain time was that we would focus on how do we serve people. And the best thing I thought is that I just as a private citizen, I can be a good neighbor. So we've been checking in on folks. So in the past 3 weeks, I think we've checked in over 3,000 people to just see, hey, what information can we get for you? Can we do a grocery run for you? So here's some resource. Here's where you can get information. We've been sending food to first responders. We've been also doing fun things like leaving porch gifts to graduates because so many young people don't get to have the celebration they thought about. So we're just doing those random acts of kindness that really, again, make this community so exceptional and make me so glad to be part of this community. I've also been organizing calls with elected officials to try again to get folks to ask the questions that might not get answered on a day-to-day basis.
I love that you're doing that. It's funny because during campaigns, people talk so much about, person-to-person contact, knock on doors, shake hands, kiss babies. But really, this time is kind of making people focus on, if you can't do all those human things, you're really just talking more about showing who you are through social media, through your contacts, through your phone calls, caring about the community. And I love also you're reaching out to some others, trying to find out answers on policies, answers on how we solve things. Because that's another thing I'll mention, the difference between running for Congress and state rep. People tend to go to their state rep more than their congressman to say, hey, we have a problem in our community. It is X, Y, and Z. Here's what it is. It's that kind of thing. So you're really already kind of tapping into the kind of things that you will do and may do when you become a state rep. You have a lot of local people telling you about the issues that really are impacting and shaping their lives. And I love that you're trying to talk to people and find out now what's on their minds.
Right, and how we can better serve each other. I mean, this is about citizen legislators. Remember, we keep a foot
Yes.
in the ground, which is so different from Congress. It's a part-time thing, and I like that it is because it reminds you every day because you get to live in the community you serve every day, and I think that's really special.
It sure is special. Texas has so many things facing it. You mentioned, of course, the budget, and you mentioned that, several things, but to get to what's facing Texas, we have things that I think people, they're kind of the perpetual issues. Oh, we spend so much money on highways, and they're always under construction, transportation, and all these big issues. Beyond the ones you mentioned, you have other issues that you are drawn to. I would think, for example, education might be of interest to you since your current work is at SMU. And so is education an issue where you have passion and concerns?
Absolutely. One of my number one issues is education, and it's because I believe it's a great equalizer. I think again, this is what helps set up people for the future. Is the one thing that you teach people how to fish. You don't give them a fish, right? And that's what education does. It allows you to fulfill your own potential so that you can be empowered with freedom and opportunity. And so, one of the things that I really am passionate about is financial literacy. I want young people to be able to understand their own personal finances, but also just the world and the economics in general, because then you are more well informed on the decisions that are made every day by either elected officials or by, international organizations, and by your own spending, what's best for your family, what sets you up for the best future possible. And I think that teaching kids about financial literacy is giving them a step above preparing them for life.
I got to tell you, I love that message about teaching kids about financial literacy. And if we've been doing that in this country for the last 20, 30, 40 years, you might not have so many young people drawn to the idea of socialism, which makes no economic sense at all. but because they don't have any economic, like a paradigm, a way to look at it, it sounds good. Free stuff for everybody sounds like a great economic policy, especially if you're someone who's, struggling a little bit. Say, sure, I'll vote for free stuff for everybody. So I love that idea of financial literacy.
Yes.
Love that.
We need to make sure that people understand, the cost of everything and how we're part of a whole. And again, there's no such thing as free. It really is all taxpayer funded. And let's talk about what are we funding and what are we getting out of that funding and where does it come from and what does a paycheck mean and what are those taxes for, and county taxes, city taxes. Most folks don't know, as you know, Debbie and I would talk, people don't know the breakdown about taxes. They just don't know. And those are the things I think are critical, just to, if we can, I'm a starfish kind of person, right? If you can teach one kid and make them change their mind and understand the basics of economics and give them a better life, gosh, we've done tremendous work.
Well, you've made them a better citizen when they grow up. They're a
Yes,
better
we made them
citizen.
responsible and a real contributor to our society, which is what we're working towards. Just being better neighbors and better for each other.
Absolutely. So we're speaking to Luisa del Rosal. I want to make sure and tell Park City's Republican Women. The website to find her is Luisa, Lusia, for, as in the word for, FOR, Texas.com. LuisaforTexas.com. So beside having a website, what other social media way can people find you?
Well, all the members of the Park Cities Republican Women and all the amazing Republican Women Club out there can find me on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. We're pretty active. If you want to join our mailing list, I would love that. Email us at info@luisafortexas.com. And also, if you want to volunteer, I mean, the best thing you can do for our campaign right now is help us check in on neighbors, or help us. Maybe you're willing to send a letter and say, hey, I'm supporting Luisa. Let me tell you why. Really, it's every vote matters, every vote counts in these elections. We lost the seat in 2018 after almost 30 plus years of Republican leadership. We can get it back, but it's going to take hard work, and I need every volunteer out there to help me out.
Absolutely true, and it ties to something you mentioned near the beginning about redistricting. That is coming up, and we need to win every seat we can, hold on the seats we have, win back the seats that we have lost, because this is the time we cannot be in second place in the tally in the Texas legislature about Republican versus Democrat. So you have tons of energy. I just love it. You just make me smile because you're full of energy and passion, and you're working hard on this campaign, even in this time when you can't do the usual campaign thing. So Luisa, thank you so much for joining us. Anything else you want to share with PCRW or everyone else listening to this?
Thank you so much. No, again, this is our race. This is a race to serve Texas. Where Texas goes, so does the nation. So let's fight for our principles, fight for the things that really make this the most exceptional state and the best country in the world. So join me.
Amen to that. Luisa del Rosal, thank you so much for taking time to talk to me.
Thank you, Debbie. Have a wonderful day.